Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Office Hours here with All Things MSP. And my guests today are Jared and Mike from Blacksmith Infosec. Now, I met these guys at IT Nation Secure and really, was interested in what they're kind of doing and especially their background and what got them to this place. So, Jared and Mike, I don't know who wants to go first and who wants to tell the story, but one of you just go ahead and start introducing what Blacksmith Infosec is quickly, because we'll get into more later, and then who you are and kind of the story behind Blacksmith Infosec.
Yeah, I would love to. So I'm Jared. I'm one of the co-founders of Blacksmith Infosec, joined by Mike Sabarsky. We've known each other for a lot of years. We've worked together a few times over the years, and found ourselves in kind of the unique situation last summer where Mike's company had filed Chapter 11. I was ready for a new opportunity. And so for the first time in a 20 plus year career, we were both looking for something new. And we kind of looked at each other as we were going through the interview processes and saying, hang on a second, what are you going to do next? You're going to build a security program for how many times have you done that, Mike? 35. Okay. I'm going to go build a security program for at least the sixth time in my career. Maybe we can do something about this. So that was really the genesis of Blacksmith, was how do we help ourselves and make some software that will make our lives easier? And so by way of backstory, Mike's background is kind of the traditional IT and cybersecurity, came up through the ranks, starting as a network technician and working his way up to spend a few years as a vCISO. And then when he and I worked together, he was the head of information of IT and security at a healthcare company. My background is more on the software development side of things. Creating computer science, worked at Visa and spent some years in the federal government working for some of the three-letter acronyms, and then pivoted into startups more than 15 years ago. And basically ever since, it's been financial services, healthcare, startups, building software that needed to be secured, going through SOC 2 audits and things like that. And every time I'd come into one of those organizations, I'd say, how are we protecting social security numbers or PHI? Security, what's that? And so I'd have to build a security program from scratch. And so that's, like I said, that's sort of where the genesis of Blacksmith came from. So we built a platform. We started selling it initially to our former employers who said, hey, you're not here to manage our security program for us. We'd love to pay a fraction of what we were paying you to manage our security program. That sounds great. They'd roll out the security program, they'd get their policies in place, and they'd say, okay, now what? Well, let's get your IT team involved. And inevitably, that was the managed service provider. And so we said, that's when we kind of, we've been joking that that's when we had to learn how to spell MSP, was that point where our customers were saying, great, we need a little bit more help here. So we get the MSP involved. The MSP would look at it and say, this platform is amazing. How do we roll this out to the rest of our customers? And so we built a multi-tenanted dashboard on top of it and made it so that the MSPs can manage security programs at scale. And so that's sort of how we kind of got into this space. We know MSPs, and we've worked with a few of them, especially Mike in his vCISO days, where he was kind of providing the security support for MSPs. And so, that helped us get the word out there. And so how did we get to IT Nation Secure? It was asking our customers, hey, what shows are you guys going to? Oh, you're going to IT Nation Secure and things like that. Cool. Let's go to those also and continue to learn and grow. So that's sort of where we are today, is really still exploring that MSP space and what it takes to be a good partner in this ecosystem and figuring things out that way. But what we really know deeply is the compliance and the security aspects, because we have built and run these programs ourselves so many times.
Awesome. Now, I really love kind of that part of the story where you got involved with MSPs because that's what your clients are using, and you had to kind of figure out how you fit into that puzzle. So, Mike, what's your side of the story?
Yeah, so my side of the story, as Jared said, I originally started coming out of the IT and compliance route. So I built out the security program at the organization where I was at for a long time, really enjoyed doing that. And then I pivoted and moved over to a consulting firm in the DC area that basically provides vCISO services to small, medium businesses. And so there I built out security programs for a couple dozen different companies, helping them put in policies and procedures and looking at risk. And then I came over, as Jared said, to the health tech organization where we worked together, and worked there, helped them revamp their security program to make sure that they were, HIPAA compliant, SOC 2 compliant, and were able to sustain that in a repeatable fashion. But when I was working as a vCISO, worked with a lot of MSPs, a lot of SMBs across the gamut of regulated space, non-regulated space. They just wanted to keep their client data secure, and really enjoyed that. And that's one of the things that Jared and I really have in common is our kind of North Star. The reason we started all this was trying to secure the SMB space, because there's so many tools out there for enterprise. They're just not approachable and not affordable for SMBs, that we really wanted to make sure that this was something that SMBs could afford and could use. And so we built the tool to basically have everything really that an SMB needs to run the security program and get going on their security journey, and then leverage the MSP relationship to A, help reach the clients, and B, help the MSPs provide those services and build trust with their clients as well.
Yeah, we've had a lot of tools, security tools specifically, come into this space for doing specific things. But I think we're just starting to see the evolution of platforms to manage the program itself. And so I think you guys are right here at the right time in terms of this MSP space. And the management of the program is something that your typical SMB is never going to be able to do, because they just simply don't have the resources to do it. Now, I know that we're going to get into in just a minute kind of your guys' value prop and a little bit of a demo so people can actually see what makes you different. But what is your favorite thing about the MSP space so far?
Joe, do you want to take this, or I can?
Yeah, go for it, Mike.
I think the biggest thing is just how supportive the space is. When we went to IT Nation Secure, we were just blown away by not only the MSPs who were eager to talk, eager to share their stories, eager to help us learn the space, but also even the other vendors. We got a chance to talk to a couple vendors, and they were very open, very helpful to say, hey, here's where we stumbled as we were growing. Here's the pitfalls that you want to try to avoid. So just in general, the whole community has been very welcoming and be helpful.
Yeah, and that's kind of the difference. Go
sorry,
ahead, Jared.
I was just going to add to that real quickly that we also love the authenticity and the technicality, right? So like, we are both technical people. Again, my background is in software development. Mike's background is in the IT side of things. We are both very technical and hands-on, and so being able to talk authentically to other technical people, like we can't spell sales, we can't spell marketing. We're sort of stumbling our way through these things, but I can speak ones and zeros, and Mike can talk network configuration and things like that till the cows come home. And so for us, it's really just being able to have those like really authentic, deep conversations with somebody at a deep and fundamental level that. It's just, again, it's the welcoming nature of it. It's the authenticity, and it's the technical nature of the folks that we're talking to. It's just such an awesome day. Like, it's like coming home in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I think that authenticity comes a lot from the technical nature of the owners in this business and the people that are typically, going to these shows and evaluating these solutions, is that I would say probably 80% of them are technical in one way or another. And that is a huge difference versus selling into, say, the enterprise space, where you may have an executive who is in charge of even an IT department who themselves is not very technical, because they actually are more of a manager, a professional manager, than they are a technician.
Yep.
All right. So as promised, we have a lot to cover today, but one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we showed the actual platform and be able to walk through the value prop as we're walking through that platform. Now, you guys have created something that you want MSPs to use so that they can generate a high margin offering and manage this, cybersecurity program for clients, going forward and be able to scale it across multiple clients. So I'm excited to see this today. Mike, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and bring it up.
All right, so I'm going to show 3 different aspects of the platform. We'll go through the MSP view first, and then we'll do the administrative view, and then we'll do the end user view. But when you log in as an MSP, there's a couple different things. First, you're taken to your dashboard so you can see the companies that you have enrolled, and you can drill into them to manage them. Second of all, when you go to the company profile, you can set up some branding. So you can pick a subdomain, you can put in your logo, and then you can also put in the application name, however you're going to refer to the application to your clients, whether it's going to be, in this case, the demo case, the Forge, you can call it compliance platform, whatever your clients will know it as. That way, when the emails come from the platform, it'll have the same similar acknowledgement that they'll know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say right there that is a great idea. Not just from a branding aspect, because that's cool, but not important. The important thing here is you're actually translating it into the language that you talk to your clients with. And I think that's the important piece there.
And so, as you saw, when you're on the main login page, you have our branding. If you go to the subdomain that you've set, now when your clients get here, they'll see the branding that you've put in here. And so when you come in here, there's a couple of things that you'll do. The first one will be fill out the company profile on behalf of the client. So you can put in their logo, some colors. Again, this is going to be for branding the policies, so it feels like it's theirs. Yep. You'll also figure out which modules of ours you want to use. So we wanted to provide you any of the tools that you needed. In some cases, your clients will already have some sort of training in place, so you can turn off the training module. If they're already managing risk somewhere else, you can turn off that module, etc. One big thing, depending on how you want to handle this and how intrusive you want to be to the end users, you can have them either accept just the acceptable use policy and the overarching InfoSec policy, or each policy individually, and you can set that. Next, you can put in what compliance requirements you're going for. We're currently using the NIST CSF as the baseline, and then if you need HIPAA, SOC 2, if you're doing government contracting and need either 800-171 or a CMMC, you can select this. A lot of our clients are in New York and dealing with New York DFS and the New York education law. They're publicly traded, so whatever you guys need as far as frameworks. Next, who's going to own the security program? And this is a really big thing for us. From my vCISO experience, it never works well when IT owns the security program. You want someone at the C-level owning the program that can push the policies down and set the culture and really own it. And a lot of this is, again, trying to little by little instill those security best practices into the SMB market. Whether or not you have physical office space, if you're allowing BYOD, and then if you're a 365 or a Google Workspace shop. And that's really all you need to get started. Once you save that, you can come over to your policy admin. There's already your templates are queued up for you. I've pre-approved a couple of them. But when you come into the templates, a couple of things happen. First of all, you can either assign it to somebody else and send it to them for their review, or if you're the admin, you can assign it to yourself and approve the policy. The policies themselves were written from a cybersecurity and auditor standpoint, but we also put in explainer text to, again, begin that end user education. What are they actually accepting, acknowledging? Those call out bubbles begin that end user education. I like
that a lot.
You can see the variables, and the reason we did this is we wanted to provide you, the way we refer to it is bowling with the bumpers up. We wanted the policies to be editable, but not to the point where you can take stuff out where the policy is no longer aligned to the security framework. So the policy is as it is, and then the variables are what you can change, and I'll show you another policy how that takes effect. But for example, in the acceptable use policy, the current language is artificial intelligence use is allowed with limited use. If you change this to prohibited and save the draft and go back to that section, it now says that it's prohibited and people should not use it. And then you can go through and approve the policies. Again, access control policy, just to kind of show, again, the variables. So how often are we going to go through and deactivate inactive accounts? Or is it going to be every 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Again, with the bumping with the bowlers up, keeping all the variables sane and compliant, and giving you everything you need. As you go through and approve the policies, a couple different things happen. The first one is your compliance roadmap starts getting built out. So these are the shall statements from the policies that say, hey, you're going to do this. And this is the beginning of kind of the revenue generation, really, for the MSP for you guys, because this is all project work. Some of this you'll already be doing, so it's going to be an easy checkbox. Some of it you'll need to do, but now you have this roadmap that the clients have approved, and you can work with them to say, hey, let's get some project work going to close these gaps. And so you can come off as you complete the tasks, you can upload evidence here and then just check them off. We prioritize these tasks as far as phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, based on our expertise. You know, all the passwords, MFA stuff is up in phase 1, getting instant response plan in place, etc., and kind of dwindles down. The other piece that happens at the same time is the risk register starts getting built out already. So all of those compliance tasks become risks. This way the business can start really looking at business risk and security risk and thinking about everything from a risk perspective. You can also add other risks in here, whether, you know, they're financial risks, operational risks, strategic risks, whatever they may be, and really helping the organization manage those risks. And so this part is part of increasing your MRR, because you can start setting up monthly, quarterly, annual meetings, touch points to really help them manage their security risks, but also engaging them with, hey, here's the general landscape. Here's what we're seeing from our other customers. Here's some risks you may want to consider, and making sure that they're staying on top of that.
Well, and it avoids the being very vague about the risk, because now that you have this risk register, you can be very specific about where the risk is. And I'm guessing kind of give them an idea of the priority of the different risks and which ones really need to be addressed.
Exactly. And this is also a great way of building trust with the client as well, right? It's
when you edit the risk, you can assign it to someone, so there's ownership of it. Sorry, what, Jared?
We're talking over each other here. I was saying this is a great way of building trust with the clients as well, because now you're giving them, to Mike's point, here are the best practices that we've seen from our other clients, and let's talk about managing risk, not just IT and security risk, but let's help you manage your overall risk as a business and help you just reduce that overall risk profile so you can run a healthier, higher margin business yourself.
Yeah. So you guys are giving them the security risks here, but they can add in other risks based on their knowledge of the client's business.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And the client can manage their own risks as well.
The other piece is you can export this risk register as an exception document. It comes in as a PDF. I'll open it as soon as it downloads. And so what this looks like, again, great thing to present to the client is, hey, as of today, these are the exceptions that are noted. We've addressed our risks. You know, just to be able to prove that you've done a risk assessment. Also a great thing from an auditor perspective, when they'll be reviewed next time, in here, all the owners of all the risks, any notes that are in there are all exported. And at the bottom, there's a signature place for the person that owns the security program to sign off on it as an artifact.
Nice.
The next piece of this is the training. Again, we've got your training that you would need for your general security awareness training, as well as HIPAA training. And so, and the third one is our COI training. That'll show up if you actually select CMMC or 800-171 as a framework. And again, starting those users and being trained, they're 20-minute videos. Everything you do in here is logged and tracked. So when you go into the users, you can see here who's done the training already, who's acknowledged policies. If you drill into a user, you can see, again, they acknowledge those policies when they completed the training, if a training is past due. So anything an auditor comes in and says, hey, show me that Mike has done his training, has acknowledged policies, all of that is in one place for you. This has been huge in the SMB market, which is our business systems list. Again, listing out all their SaaS platforms, and doing user access reviews. So coming in here saying, hey, we're going to look at our privileged users on an annual basis, our standard users on an annual basis, or maybe privileged users are on a quarterly basis and standard users are on an annual basis. And then you can go in here and actually conduct the audits, upload them, get them approved by the business owner. And again, when an auditor comes in and says, hey, show me that you reviewed user access for your Salesforce CRM, everything's here, immutable, so the auditors don't have any issues with it.
Nice.
One of the big things that we've seen has been helpful for users or for SMBs and MSPs is, as we've gone through this and MSPs have rolled this out to their clients, the amount of users that are no longer with the organizations that people were unaware of, they're still in these systems, is really coming to light and really lowering that risk of users logging into those systems. We've had a lot of great feedback from MSPs and SMBs. They're just shocked by the amount of users that have been left over in different systems. And not all of it's on the MSP. A lot of these systems the MSP doesn't manage, and the client isn't even aware, because they're not doing these audits until they start going through these processes. And the final piece is the incident response module. Again, you can build out your team, your IRT leads, your IT contacts, your legal contacts, PR, forensics, cyber insurance. You can add other people to it. One of the things we've added here for wire fraud is you can add contact information for your local Secret Service office, FBI office, with the idea, again, to provide everything an SMB may need. And the final thing is, based on your framework and what you're looking at, here we selected HIPAA, so it auto-populates the notification requirements, what they are for HIPAA. And then you can also add contractual requirements, because one of the things that you don't want to do, that I've unfortunately experienced, is have a breach and then start having to sift through every contract you have to figure out who do I have to notify and by when. And by that point, you've definitely missed all the deadlines. So again, trying to instill those cybersecurity best practices into the SMB market and giving them all the tools and nudges in the right direction. So that's from the admin side. And then from the user side, it's very straightforward. Let me log out and I'll hop in as the user. As soon as my
and I think it's interesting that you have the user level access as well.
Yeah,
we do, and we actually. So that was one of the.
All right, go, Mike.
So that's one of the things that, again, going back to our North Star, we've run security programs on shoestring budgets before, and I've run IT. Jared's run development and shoestring budgets. And you always have those conversations. of, hey, does Betty in accounting really need a license for this? Or does John in accounting really need an Adobe license, whatever it may be? We wanted to encourage companies to bring all their users in, all their contractors in, because this is important. This is where you're acknowledging policies. This is where you're doing your security awareness training. So we weren't in it to try and say, to have them try and figure out, oh, does Betty really need cybersecurity training, or does Betty really need to acknowledge the policies? The answer is yes, Betty does. And so we've actually built this with a flat rate as far as user access, flat rate in general, but we didn't want to charge on a per user basis. That way we want to encourage bringing everyone in and training them.
So is it a flat rate per client then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a flat rate per client. So from the user access, they come in, they see the policies, they see the acknowledgement is required for them. They will come in, they would acknowledge it. They can download the policies. When you download the policies and export them from the platform, the explanation bubbles get stripped away. So all you have is a clean policy PDF. So you can provide that to an auditor or a client that's trying to do a third-party risk assessment, etc. So it's very presentable. Again, other than policies, you've got your business systems that you can interact with and see. And then you've got your training to complete, and then the read-only version of the incident response, so you know who to contact if there's an incident.
So
and that's the platform.
Yeah, so if they need to contact people even before they get a hold of the MSP, they can go ahead and do that themselves.
Absolutely. So that's the kind of, I guess, value proposition of having everything that you need to run SMB scaled cybersecurity platform in one place, multi-tenanted for the MSP, so they can log into all their clients and see how they're doing and help nudge them across, increase their MRR and revenue from projects, trying to get them to be compliant and also keep up with compliance.
And it really looks like you guys have created something that goes from A to Z for the MSP, because it takes them from creating the policy and the training based on a certain framework to the governance of that policy, right? Through making sure that they do the training and all of that. You're also looking at, what SaaS applications are in place, not just what's inside the network, inside the four walls, right? And then in the case that there is an incident, you have put all the resources together to manage that incident response as well. So it's kind of a all-in-one toolbox for this.
It really is.
Yeah, exactly. And we're sort of calling it the batteries included type of security program, right? We're trying to give you everything you need to manage the security program, right? Now, at the same time, we're not doing the EDR solutions. So there are going to be a lot of point solutions that you'll still need to have as part of your security stack as an MSP. But the idea here is really to make this as easy as possible to manage the overall program. And rather than just going out and deploying a bunch of point solutions, making sure that you're doing it in a holistic way and that you're being thoughtful about the process of getting things out the door. Mike talked about pricing. We are a flat rate. That includes single sign-on, and it's OIDC, single sign-on with Microsoft and Google. It includes a SCIM integration, so you can import your users automatically, right? There's no SSO tax or SCIM tax or things like that. Again, our vision here, our raison d'etre is really to be that batteries included one-stop shop that gives you the tools you need to create and manage a security program, and targeted specifically at the small and medium businesses, right? Our clients do not have massive budgets. These are not 5,000 person enterprises. These are, most of our we're sort of in that B2B2B space. The end customers that are benefiting from this, from the MSPs, are typically in the sort of 10 to 300 employee range. They're either they are in a regulated industry already, or they've got a customer that's come to them and said, we need a SOC 2 attestation or something to that effect, or they're just worried. Most of them realistically are coming because they have either been popped or seen somebody get popped. And so, we're trying to get out ahead of that and make this, I think we've all been there where it's like, that's a risk that's not going to happen to me. I'm too small to get hacked. Well, guess what? You're not. And so making this, and then on top of that, we see it's so expensive to get started with a security program. I just can't afford that today. Right. And so we tried to make this as inexpensive as possible to get people started. And we sort of take the 401k approach, right? If you wait till you're 55 to start investing in your 401k or your IRA, you're going to be playing catch up and throwing money hand over fist at your retirement plan. But if you start when you're 22, if you start when you're a young business, investing in your security program and building a security culture from an early day, or from the early days, from an early stage, I swear I can get this. You start building your security program from an early stage of the business. You build that security culture, you build that security awareness, you start doing the right things, and you don't need to have the entire security program. And I think that's what a lot of people miss, is that they say, "Oh, well, look, my compliance roadmap is 70 items long, and I haven't done all of those." That's okay. There's a reason why some of those are in tier 1, and those are like, hey, those are the table stakes you just have to do. And there are things that are in tier 5 that, yes, you should do those, but you don't need to do those tomorrow. And so giving people the tools to be able to start making educated and informed decisions when they are not security professionals is really what the idea here is. And at a price point that they can afford, so they can just get started and start investing early.
Now, one of the things that, is an issue is when you get into higher compliance situations. And Mike, you called out CMMC before. And in order to really comply with CMMC, there's a lot more to it than just adhering to a framework. And so how do you guys fit into a scenario where obviously you guys can come in, you can apply the framework, you can build the acceptable use policy, you can apply governance on top, but what about when it requires that extra level of certification?
Yeah, and so we're not a 3PAO, right? That's where the client would end up working with a 3PAO to do the audit preparedness. But what we will provide to the client is the training they need to go through, that their users need to go through. All the policies that they'll have will be aligned to CMMC or 800-171. And then the compliance roadmap is going to be aligned to that as well, right? So you start saying, hey, we need to, our compliance roadmap says we have to have a SIM. Well, we're not deploying a SIM for you. The MSP can definitely deploy a SIM for you, or you can go out and find a SIM by yourself or whatever. Realistically, it's going to be the MSP, right? And so this, again, gives the MSP a way to build trust and partnership with their clients and the end business to say, hey, here's everything we need to do to get you guys compliant so that you guys can continue to bring in your revenue. Let's start working on this. Let's get this project work on the books. Let's deploy a SIM for you. Let's make sure that, MFA is deployed. Everything that you really need is in that compliance roadmap. And so just start chipping away at that and getting there. And then you end up bringing in a 3PAO to do the audit assessment preparation, and then you go through the assessment.
And the way I see this is that it's giving them the jump start at a much lower barrier to entry, so they can go ahead and get started on all the components that are going to be necessary to satisfy the assessment without having to go full into getting the 3PAO and those types of consultants involved sooner, which is going to cost more money.
Exactly, right. And I've been through some SOC 2 audits where the company that I was at said, "Hey, we need a SOC," or a customer of ours came and said, "Hey, we need you to have a SOC 2 attestation in order for us to do business with you." And at that point, it's okay, if it's going to cost us $100,000 to go out and do all the things to get SOC 2 compliant and go through the audit, we just have, it's the cost of doing business, and we have to go do that in order to secure this customer that's maybe $250,000 line of business. And so it's worth it at that point to go out and spend a ton of money. But guess what? That detracts the whole team, because now you're doing a very concerted, large scale effort to push everything out and try to go from 0 to SOC 2 in 30 days kind of thing. And it's hard work. It's expensive. Instead, Eric, you're exactly right. It's how do we get people started on that journey so that when somebody comes along and says, or when your first customer comes and says, hey, we need a SOC 2 attestation. Cool. We're 80 or 90% of the way there. And it's cost us $2,000 over the last year to get there. Awesome. Now we'll do the last 10%, and we can do that for a fraction of what we would have spent if we were going from 0 to SOC 2 on day one. This same thing with HIPAA and HIPAA compliance, right? HIPAA compliance, guess what? As soon as you start tracking PHI, you need to be HIPAA compliant. And so that's a little bit more of an issue. But there are, especially if you're a software company building a software platform for healthcare, you can work your way towards HIPAA compliance before you start actually collecting PHI, so that by the time you've actually got the SaaS application or the new EMR that's out there collecting patient data, you're already there, and you've instilled good practices along the way. With CMMC, it's one of those. Chances are your first client is not going to be a DoD client, and so or if it is, you've already got some experience in that space, and so you kind of know how to get started. CMMC is also sort of new, and so at least as far as the requirement to be CMMC compliant, and so hopefully you've already started taking the journey down NIST 800-171 and are moving towards CMMC already. Anyhow, like, if we can help make that journey smoother and easier for you, Mike, I think we have. Maybe you can tell the story of the client of ours that was an existing property development company and needed to have 800-171.
So this was through one of our MSP contacts. They came to us, and so they they work in real estate. Their clients work in real estate primarily, and so one of their clients got a contract to build out a SCIF. But part of that was, hey, they have to be 171 compliant. And so we were able to leverage this again for extremely quick turnaround, partnering with the MSP to get the policies out there, get the POEM, because basically you take the roadmap, check off everything that's already done. That becomes your POEM of, hey, here's what we still have to do, and here's when we're going to do it. And then we're able to present that within a week back to the client's client to say, yes, here's our score, here's what we're doing, here's our POEM, and basically have everything there and have those conversations much more intelligently than, hey, we've got nothing in place, we've never looked at. Like, it became a much more pleasant conversation for the MSP's client to have with their potential clients.
Awesome. And Mike, you did a great job during that demo. I just want to let you know that, because you answered almost all of my other questions that I had teed up for you while you were doing the demo. So one last question before we end this session. Is there anything new and exciting coming from Blacksmith Infosec in the next, say, 3 months?
Yeah, so a big part of what we're going to be focused on over the next few months, as we continue to go to trade shows and increase our MSP base, is learning from them which integrations are going to be most effective and helpful to scale their businesses. And so that's a big focus of ours for the next 3 to 6 months. Is really, today it's OIDC and SCIM for login and user management. Next up is going to be integrating the PSAs for project work and building out those project plans and integrating into other tools in the space to, again, make it as easy as possible for an MSP to manage their clients, build the business systems list, things along those lines, just trying to make life easier for the MSP. Again, we started off with going direct B2B on the into the SMB space and realized very quickly that we needed to pivot and focus on the MSP space. So, we're playing a little bit of catch up when it comes to those integrations, but that's where we're really looking for partners in the MSP space who can help us figure out exactly which integrations are going to be most valuable. And so I don't want to promise which ones are coming first, second, third, but guess what? If you're a partner of ours and you want to give us feedback, we would love that, and we'll help. Quite frankly, if you're not a partner of ours and want to just tell us what you love and don't love about it, we love that also. I think that's a big part of what we're focused on is really just continuing to learn from the MSPs that are in our partner network and that are going to be joining us soon, what we can do to make life easier for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much for sharing your solution with us today. And I wish you the best of luck and welcome to the space.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Eric.